Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us for the first in this semester series of tgiFHI, the Franklin Humanities Institute's Friday morning series that gives Duke's faculty in the humanities, interpretive social sciences, and the arts the opportunity to present on their current work to interlocutors in their fields and in related fields, and allows you, the audience, to get to know us. There is no agenda or theme indicated in the series, no demand to be anything disciplinary, interdisciplinary, in the arts, not in the arts, to give a full artist talk or to focus on one particular thing. Just to present work to others in our community that is the most exciting to that faculty member at any given time. It's very nice for all of us at FHI to invite our colleagues into our space for the kinds of intimate conversations to which we have become accustomed. And on the website of the Franklin Humanities Institute, you can find many examples of prior tgiFHIs, as well as more on Beverly as well. Michael has asked some questions of Beverly, and you can find those on our website if you want to know more. So on to Beverly. Beverly McIver is widely acknowledged as one of the more significant presences in contemporary American art, and has charted a new direction in that broad understanding of American art as a Black female artist, but as an artist as more generally. She has accumulated a numerous number of awards and honors and grants over her lifetime, and demonstrated the ways in which her career has been one of a sort of thoughtful process of change and twists and turns. McIver was born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina, as one of three daughters, including her sister Renee, who, as she explains in the film Raising Renee, who has had developmental disabilities. And she is the three of them are the daughter of a single mother who worked multiple domestic jobs to make ends meet. Now, I give this biographical information here not to reduce the work to the biographical, but to give a backdrop to what we're going to see in the work. I think that in the work that I've read about Beverly, there is a tendency to move to the biographical and actually say not enough, to my mind, about the work itself, as if a portrait and as if the history of portraiture hasn't always demanded of us some kind of consideration of what it means to paint a portrait, what it means to have a face, what it means to have a face that disappears and reappears at different times, and what it means also to consider the way in which a face is always in emergence and is always risking disappearance. In 2022, the Scottsdale Museum of Contemporary Art debuted a survey exhibition of McIver's work titled Full Circle, which subsequently traveled to the Southeastern Center for Contemporary Art in Winston-Salem, and the Gibbs Museum in Charleston. And the exhibit was accompanied also by a hardcover catalog published by the University of California Press. Our colleagues, for example, Rick Powell, Jasmine Cobb, have written on Beverly's work, and they have written on it, I think, in a way that draws out the very troubling texture of her work and the problem, I suppose, of the way in which texture is shaping something that we might understand, and I'm using Beverly's own words here, the subconscious that emerges in her work. Raising Renee, a feature-length documentary film produced in association with HBO by Academy Award nominated and award-winning filmmakers Stephen Asher and Jean Jordan, which I believe started when you were at the Radcliffe Institute, right, some years ago, tells the story of McIver's promise to care for Renee when their mother passes away. The film played in festivals around the country. It was nominated by an Emmy for an Emmy for Outstanding Arts and Culture Programming, and is now available on Amazon Prime. I had the pleasure of watching it yesterday. It's very easily available on Amazon Prime, and I recommend it. I think that one of the things that you know, as not an art historian, but something that I would want to say about this work as a way of introducing Beverly, something that I take partly from the film, but also, as I was saying, looking at the paintings anew after seeing the film as well, gave me a different kind of perspective on them, and that is about what one critic has called the feeling of paint, right? And the feeling of paint that emerges when you look at her work is stunning in so many ways, and also oppressive. I think that one of the things that we are, that is demanded of us when we feel the paint is a sense of a backdrop of state and familial violence, of the desire to support and the family, the familial, the particular figures who are gestured towards in the portraits, but also a kind of painful resistance to the norms of the familial that actually hide the struggle that is almost always there, against the backdrop of what it is to be disabled, to have mental disability, to grow up with a form of violence that is there sometimes in the scratching out that we see in the paintings, scratching through the thick paint that we cannot but feel. And also the history of the violence of the Ku Klux Klan, the civil rights movement, as it played out in Beverly's hometown of Greensboro. I'm not going to say more. I know you're not here to listen to me, but Beverly. And with that, I thank you for your work and welcome you to come up here.
Thank you so much for the invite and for being here. I am glad. It's very difficult for me to get up this morning because I usually go to bed at 2 and never wake up before 11. So when the alarm went off, I thought the house was on fire. Heard that horrible noise. Can we have dim the lights? Is that possible? Oh, this pad is really sensitive and I knocked it out.
It is very sensitive.
That's what Michael said. So I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm the youngest of 3 daughters that was born to Beverly McIver. That's my cousin Sharon with the roller in her head, and then I'm right here to sit on the end, and Renee's on the opposite end, and my sister, middle sister, Ronnie. We were raised by my mother, Beverly McIver, who at age 75 died of pancreatic cancer. My mother was a maid. She worked and cleaned and raised white children all of her life to care for us. In 2004, my mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and the doctor gave her 3 months to live. So that was in January, and she died in May. I'm sorry, March. Instead of being a grieving daughter, I decided that I wanted to be an artist, and so I recorded my mother in the hospital, my mother after she died. We stood around my mother's bed and prayed for her ascension. This is my sister Renee. Now, this work I'm going to show you first was done over 20 years ago. Renee is my older sister and was born mentally disabled. She has a mindset of a third grader, even though she's 63 years old. Renee also has epilepsy. When we were growing up, Renee, this is the paintings that she talked about. When we were growing up, Renee was really violent due to medication and adolescence. So she would hit me or throw me down the stairs. And I made these paintings trying to scratch out Renee's face to come from behind her shadow as she passes over me. That's me, the figure on the left. I made these paintings and moved Renee's head out of the way, trying to come from behind her. And this is the last painting that I made from that series 20 years ago. Can you hear my silent scream? Okay. I went to Radcliffe Institute for a fellowship for a year. And I met the filmmakers, Gene Jordan and Steve Asher. And immediately they said, we want to make a film about you and how you create artwork. So I was like, okay, I was thinking in my head, home film, nothing fancy, definitely not HBO. So when you see the film, you'll see that I look horrible all throughout the entire film. I should have known when the filmmaker said to me, we're getting ready to film. Do you want to film a bra? That should have been a clue. But instead, I'm like, no, I'm just going to be who I am. And so you see it. I'm going to show you a clip from the film, Raising Renee. It is on Amazon Prime. Mindset of third grader. Players, what you find, you get over and action. When I was 17, I went into the early drugs. everybody in the thought to be top. So everybody was happy to Renee. That was before I go to tomorrow, we were ready to launch. My life is the art all that insurance. I want to know Renee. They said you want to know. So this is a painting that I made of Renee. It's called Embrace, of me and Renee together, and it's on the cover of the HBO documentary. Okay, so about 3 years ago, I got a call from Jody, who's in charge of the American Dance Festival. And she said, I think you should do a collaboration with Eiko. I was like, Eiko who? And she said, she's a Japanese dancer that has, comes to ADF often. And I think the two of you working together would be a really good idea. And I was like, I don't do performance dance or anything. And she said, no, I think it'll be good. So anyway, Eiko showed up at my house one night, and she said, we'll talk about caregiving. You're caregiving for your sister, I'm caregiving for my mother. And so we agreed that in the following April, that I would fly to Japan to meet her mother. In January, Eiko called me and said, my mother's dying, so you need to get here like now, right? At the time, the chair was Sheila, and I went to Sheila's office and started crying and said, I gotta get to Japan. I don't have any money. You know where Japan is. But I told her about it, and she graciously gave me money to buy a plane ticket. So I went to Japan, and by the time I landed in Japan, the mother was dead. So it's only a 22-hour flight, right? So I had the best seafood sushi of my life, right? Soup. And what I learned was I was really an oddity. There were no Black people anywhere. Like, they didn't colonize colored people. They sort of did that with Asians. So everybody was staring at me as I walked. This kid was like, can I touch you? So it was really interesting. And then I spent the day, Eiko would send me into this room where her mother's bedroom, and say, go talk to my mother. I was like, I don't know what to say to her. She's dead, for God's sake. So, and she was lying in this pine box, not embalmed, and looked just absolutely gorgeous, like she was sleeping. And so I would go in and I'd say, hey, how you doing? Every day the funeral home came and repacked her with ice. You can see that she's starting to deteriorate around her neck and her hands, right? So finally, the funeral, they had to keep the body at the house for 7 days because the crematory was full and couldn't take the mother. So for 7 days, I was going back and forth. And then there was, I have this, let me see this work. I went to the funeral and spoke at the small chanting for 50 minutes. And this is just a little sound clip of it. So. 50 minutes. Okay. So again, like I had approached my mother's death, I approached this death the same way. I wanted to get images. This is Eiko's husband and her son. So what they do is this is the same box that was in the house. They cover it with flowers, and they put in the box anything that they want for her to have in her afterlife, right? So these are images that this is crematory, right? They just rolled her in. It was really state of the art. And in she went, they pushed the button. We went upstairs to drink sake, and 50 minutes later, she was ashes, right? The interesting thing about this is that these are her remains, and they ask for the family to come up in twos and pick up parts. They had a tray of her remains and with chopsticks. They said, pick up parts of her body and put it in this urn, right? And they said, the guy that was director was like, it's important that we put her, excuse me, it's important that we put her standing head up, right? So you're saying this is the femur, this is it. And so I had to do this, even though I can't do it, I can't even eat with chopsticks. So I get back and I make these paintings. This is, Echo wanted me to have something of her mother's. This chemise was something that I took, made a painting, and Echo wore the chemise and danced to it at ADF, right? These paintings that I made of her mother, we had them on stage at ADF, and Echo danced around them. So I didn't finish these faces, but it was interesting because Echo later said to me, you finished all the faces of the people who were family members, and the other people were just funeral home people. Okay, this is a slip up, but I wanted to say this because this is Norman Lear. So I had the pleasure, this is a weird story. I had the pleasure to fly out to Santa Monica because I wanted to paint Norman Lear's portrait. So I flew out there and Norman Lear said, I said, look, I'm not gonna make a portrait of you, I'm about painting your soul. So you're 99 years old, so don't be looking for me to fix your wrinkles. So he said, I would love for you to paint my soul. And so I went out there. I had this painting hanging in my studio. But the painting that I made of Norman, which you see here, was purchased by the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. Norman turned 100 this past year. And he's going to be 101 this year in July, next year, excuse me. So when I talk about my dad's dead, and there's no going back. I don't have any regrets. I simply wish I had more time with him. I love to feel the love he showed me the last few years of his life. I was his caretaker the last 6 months. He lived with me in Chapel Hill, and daily I would bathe him, change diapers, clean, and cook for him. He died of COVID. Actually, we both had COVID. He always displayed his love to me by giving me a $20 bill. Before he died, he had given me the key to a safety deposit box. I was grieving really bad because I didn't grow up with him, as you'll see in the film. I didn't grow up with him, and I couldn't get to know him until after my mother died, because she was like, he's going to disappoint you. He's just going to leave you, just like he's going to abandon you, just like he did me. So anyway, this last 6 months of his life was really sort of wonderful for me because I actually got to know him as a human being. So because he would give me $20 every now and then. When he died, he had a safety deposit box, and he gave me the key and told me to go down and get it out of the bank. So I looked at the box. Inside the box were envelopes that I had written with his name on, that I had sent him money for Christmas, birthday, whatever, over the years. This box had $44,000 in cash. And he told me that he wanted me to have it because he didn't want me to have to depend on any man's pocket. I'm going to just read this boy. He whispered, "It's time to let me go. I've lived a good life for 95 years. I'm tired, and I don't want to be a burden to you. Please let me go." So, that just happened like a couple of years ago, maybe not even a year and a half ago. And so currently, I wrote a letter to my mother recently and basically just asking her, why did you choose me to take care of Renee? Because I have another sister, there were plenty of people, but she chose me. And I want to read this letter that I wrote to my mom. It's been, yeah, it's been 16 years since you left this earth. You asked me to care for Renee. At the time of your request, I didn't really think you would die. I mistakenly thought that parents live forever. They provide an endless stream of love and support. At the very least, I thought I would be wealthy enough to afford good care for Renee. I never knew that I would or could love Renee as if she were my child. This is Renee at my house, making pot holders, of course. Let's see here. You didn't tell me that I would have to learn to be selfless about the decisions I made on her behalf. I had to fill your shoes and find it within myself to love only like a parent loves an offspring. What was it that you saw in me, in my younger self, that I was capable of caring for Renee? I wasn't married, I had no kids, and I moved as far away from North Carolina as possible. There is no evidence to support your decision. The learning curve was steep, as I had no idea how to make my mentally disabled sister happy. Despite my reservation, Renee is happy, thrilled in fact to be with me. I provided her with the love she needed, and she loved me unconditionally. She taught me about true love. Rennie lived on her own for 12 years, which is part of the film, the ending of the film. She embraced her independence and thrived. 2 short months ago, I had to move Renee into assisted living, Chapel Hill. She lives 20 minutes away from me, and I visit her twice a week. Rennie's having a difficult time. Even though there are activities from the time she wakes up for breakfast in the morning till the time she goes to bed at night, she still is having difficulty. This is her schedule for a place. My sister, Ronnie, and I visit her. I visit her very frequently because she's close to me. She cries daily and she feels abandoned. Mom, I don't know what to do. She has stopped making pot holders and writes, I am sorry to my family and friends. When I ask her what she is sorry for, she looks down and says, I don't know. It breaks my heart to see Renee in so much pain. I am sad and I am angry. What would you do, Mom? How would you handle this situation? So I take Renee to the doctor. It's Renee in her new apartment. It's Renee did the pink and purple, because she loves those colors, set up her bedroom so that it could look homey. We often take pictures together. And so one of their outings recently was to visit the National Art Museum. And it just so happened that the painting portrait that I had done of my mom, that's in the permanent collection there, was on display. So Renee got to stand in front of the portrait and say, "That's my mama, that's my mama." So that was lovely. I mean, she's got good experience, she's just having a difficult time. He even printed the photograph of my mother in my bio information on Renee's walker, along with C11, which is her apartment number. This is a response from my mother to me asking her why. What would you do? She said, "I didn't ask you to care for Renee solely because it brings me peace. I knew it would change the course of your life and empower you to tell stories through painting. Art has the power to heal. Your gift of painting resonates with others and provides a refuge for all the other caretakers, parents, and humans that make sacrifice for loved ones. You have a gift, and you must use it. You must share it with the world. Look what you have accomplished. You should be basking in the glow of your lovely life, full of love, respect, and courage. You're doing a great job, Bev. We love you. Well done." So Renee was looking so sad this week. I just was like, "Oh God, I gotta start this painting of her." But she seems like she's aging rapidly at this place. And then I took her out to McDonald's, and I was like, "Smile for me. This is the best I got." And this was just yesterday. Renee sitting on the bed, just being depressed and asking for forgiveness for I don't even know what. So she's struggling. She's having a hard time. Thank you.
But there are some potholders, so she is here with us.
She is totally there with us. Yes.
Your paintings are so sort of embracing of the unutterable complexity of life.
Yeah.
One, I couldn't help noticing in the painting of you with your father that you have this beatific smile on your face. And you don't see an enormous amount of super happy people, smiling faces. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. As I said, I had the pleasure of taking care of my dad after he fell. He lived alone. He was in his right mind at 95. He fell in the house and he had to be put in rehab, right? And so I said, "Look, dude," because he's like, "I'm trying to get stronger so I can go home." "Dude, you're not going home." I said, "You can go to a assisted living place, or you can come home with me." And he said, I'm gonna come home with you." So during that time, those last 6 months of his life, I seriously got to know him. I actually fell in love with him. Something that I had never felt growing up or as an adult. The $20 didn't mean very much to me, although it was his way of showing love. And I'm so much like him, it's unbelievable. It's pretty scary. But I had some really good times lying in bed with them and eating ice cream sandwiches and just doing things. I mean, even like, "Let's eat dessert first." And I was like, "Okay." Because I thought, who am I to tell you at 95 that you need to eat your vegetables? So yeah, it was a very, very close relationship. And what happened was it was our last snowstorm here in Durham and Chapel Hill. And they were predicting, that it was gonna be a bad, which they always predict it's gonna be bad, right? And you say, it's gonna be bad. We wake up the next morning and it's snow and ice everywhere. And I live on a dirt road. And so I go in his bedroom and say, look, it's snowing. And he's dead. He's lying there with his eyes open, which is horrible. And I called hospice and I said, he's passed away. Like, can you come get him? And they said, no, we don't travel in bad weather. So they were like, we'll call somebody to see if perhaps, with an SUV, to see if perhaps they can pick the body up. So all day long, I sat there with his body in the bed before Clement's funeral home in Durham picked the body up. And it was like 8 o'clock at night when they took the body out. So, wow, what a way to go out, right? And I can honestly say, not in the traditional sense of loving someone or a father figure, that I loved him. And that he allowed me he trusted me enough, right? He's always saying, don't depend on anybody. He'll let you down, including himself, right? But he trusted me enough and he made me happy. Yep. Yes, Christine.
It's so profound how much you've given to other people your whole life. And I wonder how you are doing, not having to give to everybody else.
Well, the giving for Renee is still the gift that just keeps on giving, even though she's not under my roof. I will say that I would not be able to afford where she's living right now if I hadn't made a lot of painting sales last year. It cost, I couldn't put her, I looked at a lot of places and I just couldn't in good conscience put her in a Medicare facility because they are dumps, right? We should treat our older people better, just FYI. So I pay $7,000 a month because this Chatham Ridge does not accept any insurance. All these places are private now. If you don't have the money to pay for them, you can't keep them at home. Then you're stuck.
But I'm asking you about what you're doing for yourself.
What am I doing for myself? Well, I asked for a raise. Yeah, that's very important. So I have a massage on a regular basis, and I have to build in time to decompress. So if I'm going to see Renee, I have at least 6 hours of doing nothing, not answering phone calls or doing anything, because I have to decompress from that. And I have to get back. I wish I could take a vacation. But
Where would you go?
we go to London, my favorite place.
I've known Beverly since college, so when I asked this question, I had to say that I remember when Renee first came to live with you, and we was in Arizona, and you were just distraught. You couldn't understand why.
Yeah.
Why would my mother do this? What am I supposed to do? years later now, what did Renee bring to your life?
It's a great question. You know, Renee basically taught me how to love. So that was the biggest gift. But I was at a resort in Maryville in Arizona, and I met with some shamanic doctor who was giving me a massage and then talking to me about what he was picking up on. And he said, "Do you have any children?" And I said, "No." And he said, "I see you're holding somebody's hand." And I said, "Oh, that's my sister Renee." And he said, "You know, she loves you very, very much. And she is really special for you to have in your life. She's basically going to carve out or be quite instrumental in you building the life that you want." So she gives a lot. And as long as I buy loops, we're good.
What's the name?
Well, she was living on her own for 12 years. And I had to move her just a couple of months ago because she started hallucinating and saying she was scared to come to my house because she was like, the tree's gonna fall on me. And, you know, she's still doing it actually. It just wasn't safe for her to be on her own anymore. So yeah, so she just recently started taking antidepressants. So hopefully that'll, you know, chill her anxiety out.
And then the filmmaker and the dancer, were they drawn to you because you're a caregiver, or were they drawn by your paintings? And what was it in your paintings that drew them, if that's it?
Yeah, the film originally was supposed to be a film about me making art and about being an artist. And the filmmakers described my paintings as stills, right? They look like stills from a film, they said. And so we started the filming with the idea that it's going to be like about me painting. And then my mother went into the hospital and died, and it became about the promise that I had made to her to take care of Renee. So ADF, the American Dance Festival, was interested in the paintings. And because Aiko is such an emotional dancer herself, that she thought the movement of Aiko and the paint in my paintings would be a good collaboration.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, can I expand on that a bit? And we'll talk about the raise later. So why art in this sense? What is art doing for you? Is art kind of pushing you in? Is art pushing you out to a world? Is it distraction? Is it concentration? Is it so with the process when you're
Yeah, I would say that art is my salvation. I mean, it's the only place that I can go and really be honest about how I feel, or talk about the difficulties of caring for people, or talk about the love that the idea of caring for people brings into your life. So it's the only sort of mechanism, because you know people look at my art and say, "Oh, your art must be you therapy." They'll say something like that to me at an opening, and I'll say back to them, "Well, the paintings are created to hold up a mirror so that the viewer can see themselves in it." And I said, "You know, so that you can check yourself, basically." And she said back to me, she said, "Well, you know," I said, "because all humans experience these things. It's what it was." People say, "Oh, life is fair if you do the right thing." It's not fair. Who said that? I mean, it's not fair. And it is, you know, you say life is good. It is good, but it's hard. It really, really is hard. So I mentioned that to this woman, and she said, well, most people don't take it as far as you do. She was like, I won't say what I was thinking. So, yes.
I was curious, how is the experience of painting Renee changed as your relationship with her has evolved?
Well, for a while, because Renee was living on her own and my father was living in my house, I painted him. So, in caring for him. And then once he died, Renee basically reappeared in the paintings. And so, I guess she'll probably be in the paintings until forever. So.
Last question, this goes back again to the dance and Japan. Is it where you started? I was wondering if you could say something about the difference between painting your own family and then sort of the invitation to paint to paint the experience in a sense of someone has an affiliated experience. I mean, just what you were saying is like life is not easy. I mean,
Right.
And there's something there for everyone, but there's been something very personal, obviously, about a lot of the work, and then you've worked with someone else. You weren't expecting to work with another corpse, right?
Right.
And so I'm just wondering if you could sort of talk a little bit about how it might be different or the same. The dress, slip, whatever it was, it seems different somehow.
Well, I think I always tell my students that if you're open, then things will come to you. If you're open and willing to accept it. And so there's a point in my life where I just said, I'm just gonna be open. I mean, so when I tell the story of my students about going to Japan because I had to have a substitute in my class, the school was in. And I tell them about being, on the plane forever and 22 hours and getting there and not even knowing what day it was and feeling incredibly disoriented. And then I had to catch a bus, like a Greyhound, 2 hours to get to Aiko's home, right? And then my mother's dead. So I was a little pissed off about that. I was like, really? Couldn't you have just held on? It came a long way. So, but the beauty of, I never ever experienced, we don't get to experience other cultures' funerals. It's very private and very sacred. And you're definitely not supposed to take photographs, but because I couldn't read Japanese, I just kept taking them. And nobody stopped me, probably because I'm Black. Paid off in this. It was an incredible experience, and I just had to be open to it. And it was more than, when I went with Aiko to clean out her mother's apartment, and she said, I want you to take something. And I thought, this woman was a size 2. Ain't nothing in here I could wear, And so I found that little chemise, and I said, okay, I'll take that. And then she took it back from me, and now she performs at it. But it was interesting performing with her at ADF. It was scary because, it wasn't, my paintings were basically a backdrop. And I was up on stage with her, doing this thing like, she would get a bowl and she would offer her mother water. So she offered me water And then there was movement. So it was very, very different and extremely uncomfortable for me to do that. And she was like, "You gotta do this again in New York." And I was like, "Oh no." I'm a painter, you can use the painting, but I'm not. And she's like, "Oh, come on, Debbie, you need to get naked." I'm like, "I'm not getting naked either." Okay, so I just talked about being open. Okay, so I shut down. But it's interesting. I mean, I wish I had the courage to like get naked and do it again and follow her because it would bring something new to my life. Not the death part, but the experience of sitting in a funeral procession for Japanese in Japan. So I grew, basically. Yes.
Thank you so much for what you shared today, and I've been also in my caregiving journey for the past several years, so this was very timely for me, and I wonder if you imagine ways that your art may change now that Renee, if I'm understanding you correctly, is for the first time in an institutional care setting. And I was thinking in particular, the two things that struck me was one was your painting of Aiko's mother's funeral, where you hadn't finished the pictures of the people that were the funeral home or sort of the associated folks. Obviously now you've got like other folks involved in her caregiving in a way. And I just wonder, how you might think about them being incorporated into the art, or if that's sort of changing your view, since it's not maybe just you and Renee primarily so much anymore.
Yeah. It's difficult to answer that question, in part because, when I go in my studio, I think, okay, I'm gonna paint something happy. The gallery didn't want to sell. So you gotta paint happy. So I'm thinking, okay, what's happy? Flowers, apples and oranges. Look, cat. It's happy, right? And then my inner voice like rises up and says, "No, you gotta paint this." And it happens to be Renee, because she's so sad. She's sad, it makes me sad. So I don't know what's next, but I'm gonna be open to receiving whatever comes my way.
Could you talk maybe about how your questions or commitments around care and caregiving figure into your role as an educator with students?
Yeah. Well, I think because I never had children, I think of my students as my children, basically. I've been teaching for 25 years now. So, they're part of my life. They're part of the story. So, and I totally believe in giving back, bringing someone along. So in the catalog, the Full Circle, there's a section. The show was curated to have 50 works of mine over the years. But the second part to that was, it was 12 students that I had taught over the years of teaching that are currently practicing artists. So their work was like one painting from each of them that was part of the show. So I care, I care about them, and they're important. They're an important part of this process and this journey through life. Yes.
Thank you so much for all of this. Just wonderful. In addition to being an artist, you're also a curator, and I think in the spirit of care, I wonder if you could talk about your curation practice. I think we have an artist in the room, maybe has been part of your curation practice recently in town. So how do you approach that? What are you looking for when you're curating?
Well, you must be talking about clearance. I curated this show at Craven Allen Gallery, which is on Broad Street. And it's a gallery that's represented me for years. And it's really a frame shop. but it's really a good gallery. I mean, they sell more than any gallery that I have. And it's because of them that it was possible for me to pay for Renee's care. So, but I curated a show, Triple Threat was the name of it. And it was Clarence Haywood, Will Paul Thomas, and Charles Williams. So 3 Black males that I had come across various things. Clarence and I were at Ragdale together. That's where I got to know him. And you know, it's hard to curate. I can't curate my own work because I don't know. You know, I always say, you pick it, you choose it. But in this case, I was able to look at the work, look at the commonalities of what it means to be a Black male in America, and the trials and tribulations of all that carries, right? And that's what I looked for, and the joys too, right? Of course. So that's what I looked for when I curated that show. And I picked people who I think are good painters, really good painters. That's very important to me. Yes.
How have you navigated so many caregiving responsibilities coming up while pursuing your artistic career?
I need a raise. It's exhausting. Truthfully, it's just really exhausting. But a friend of mine just the other day reminded me of, look where you are. I'm so focused on why isn't Renee happy? Why? I mean, like, how can I make her happy? So focused on that. My friend said to me, she was like, look where you are. You have your dream house. You're building a beautiful studio. You just got picked up by Barry Campbell Gallery in New York to represent you exclusively. And they promised me, they said, we'll make you a millionaire quickly.
You don't need a raise.
So, it's good. I got great people around me who remind me of the big picture. I mean, there's a lot of things in my life that, that finally come true at this point that I'm just grateful for. I in a lot of museums, collect my work, and I'm getting the notoriety, that I deserve.
I just want to make one comment. I'm waiting for that happy picture.
You're working.
You're the hardest worker. No.
Thinking that I met a millionaire. The right man, right? You're right.
I'm waiting for the happy picture. Besides, let me ask you one. Daughters, the dancing daughter? What's
Doris Dance.
I love that.
It's at the Mid Museum.
Yeah, what's behind that?
What's behind that?
Yeah.
So this is interesting because it just shows how life just comes full circle for you. I got a creative capital grant, and back in 2001 or 2, right? And my project was How I Love You. Nanny, How I Love You was the title of it. And it was a project that me and my mother, and of course Renee, we traveled through the South interviewing domestic workers, people who dedicated their lives to doing the same thing that my mother did. And so I met this woman. It's funny because this woman, Dora, had just been moved to this Medicare facility. And the woman that she worked for, who was white, was also in the same, but they were on opposite sides of the room. It was just like so weird to see white people over there, black people over there. And so I met her, she had just gotten there, she hadn't been there long, and she was like, please, can you take me home? She said, I'm just so sad. And at that moment, I was like, oh God, like, you know, I was making $60,000 a year. I could barely take care of myself. And I turned to my mother and I said, you know, I'm not gonna ever put you in a place like this. You don't have to worry, I'm gonna take care of you till the end. And for Dora, I was like, I would have taken her if I had the money I have now. Yes, come on, girl, you can come live with me. This was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Nowhere, bumfuck, nowhere. And I thought I had a dream about Dora, and I was so concerned about how can I free her. So this dream was painting Dora dancing out of this nursing home, and kids where Dora's dance came from. And then I heard like a couple of months later, some long lost cousin relative took Dora out of the nursing home. I know, right?
It strikes me that the commitments, the various commitments that you've made, that are ones that emerge out of death of someone dying, or even when it's been an accident, right? In the sense of you didn't expect to get to Japan and be in a scene of death exactly, but I mean, maybe happiness isn't the thing. I mean, it seems like maybe the embrace that we saw there, which is it's partly about happiness, but it's all I'm thinking about this feeling of the paint. Yeah. The feeling of the paint just it seems like life. It's a commitment to life, which is beautiful. Oh,
Holy, holy. Sorry.
You can deal with that.
I think, yeah, that's beautiful.
More than happiness is living.
Did you hear that? More than happiness is living. I'm gonna write that down. Because I'm a happy person. I'm not gonna go through life like, woe is me, I hate everybody. My friends say you're generous to a fault. Which I take offense to, by the way, because I always say, we benefit from it, so shut up. So yeah, that's beautiful. I like that. And maybe this is what life is. Maybe this is happiness. It's successfully dealing with the difficulties of what it means to live and be human and care.
That's where the story is, right? Tolstoy says in Anna Karenina that happy families are boring, unhappy families. Ooh, let's get started. Right.
And I think about the letter that you wrote to your mother and then the letter that you wrote to yourself. And that I want to remember the last words, but I do remember the word courage.
Yeah.
Along with happiness and living is courage.
Yeah.
Which comes from you.
Yes. Indeed it does. But you have to wake up. I have to remind myself every morning, like, it's okay, it's gonna be a great day, you're worthy, go get them, be generous as you walk through life, so if I'm standing in line and I see somebody struggling, like it's at the grocery store, but I see somebody struggling, the card's not being accepted or whatever, they don't have the money to pay for it, I'll just put it on my credit card. You know, because I think they must have needed that. You know, glad I was there to bail them out without any sort of obligation. Well, you gotta pay me back, you know? So yeah, it's how I live.
Said your paintings were still, I don't understand.
Film skills.
I don't know.
So, you know, if you look at a strip, this is old school, right? Everything's digital now.
It's right.
Like, yes. Yeah. It's, you know, the paintings are painted beautifully for those people who want to just look at paint
Yeah.
and texture and color and how I weave that on a canvas. But for those who want more, you see more. And if you're not ready for more, you know, you don't see it. You just see, oh, it's a beautiful painting. Thank you so much.